This one is so horrific that it's hard to even believe that anyone could have allowed it to happen. Welcome back to the Creepy Marathon Month. You should know the drill by now. Hit those lights, sit back, and enjoy. Creepy face. Let's start off with a story that was featured on the Travel Channel, and if true, is one of the creepiest things we've ever seen. Corey had been experiencing some strange occurrences in his home and decided to start filming. One day, while he was home alone, he noticed the light in the fridge flickering. At first he didn't think much of it, but soon the bathroom light began flickering as well, and he soon realized that the taps had also turned on. Take a look.
What freaked me out was the light in the bathroom started flickering, and I heard water running. So I kind of snuck around the corner, and the water was on. As I started to walk away from the bathroom after cutting the water off, I kind of heard something behind me, and that was actually this door here that closed. That's when I really truly got freaked out.
Corey walks outside and calls his girlfriend, who tells him to stay out of the house, but he tells her that he wants to keep filming, so he goes back inside and finds his kitchen trashed. Take a look at this.
He finds the kitchen in total disarray.
All the chairs were on the floor, knocked over, all the cabinets were open. Nope.
After discovering his home in disarray, Corey goes back outside and doesn't re-enter for another 2 hours. When he finally returns, he conducts a thorough search of the house to see if anyone is inside. After checking all of the rooms, he finds no one. However, after reviewing the footage he recorded, he notices something terrifying in the doorframe of his daughter's bedroom. Take a look.
I noticed something in the corner of the room, which is actually my daughter's room. So I screenshotted it, and I just zoomed in on it. My heart just dropped. I could feel my face, all the blood in my face ran. I mean, it scared me. It just looked like somebody watching me.
What on earth was that? Experts featured on the show suggested that a poltergeist had infested Corey's property and believed that the house needed to be exorcised. Commenters on the video shared their own experiences with poltergeist activity in their homes and advised Corey to pray over his property. Others were more skeptical, questioning why he would re-enter the house alone without calling the police. How would you react if you found that in a doorway in your home? I'd love to know your thoughts on this one. Farm boy. This photograph was taken at a farm in Herefordshire, England in 2008 by photographer and graphic designer Neil Sandbach. It was to be used on a wedding invite for his friend's upcoming wedding, which was to be held at the venue. At first glance, it looks innocent enough. However, when Neil later opened the file in Photoshop to tidy it up, he noticed a white figure in the distance on the right. When he zoomed in, this is what he saw. Initially, he didn't think it was anything supernatural, but after the wedding couple asked staff at the venue if the place was haunted, they told them that for years they had been plagued by the spooky apparition of a young ghost boy dressed in white nightclothes who was always spotted close to the main barn. Pretty creepy. Now, we don't have any more information on the building itself, but it would be awesome if anyone lives nearby and would be interested in doing an investigation there. The Japanese Paraquat killer. Now let's take a slight detour from the supernatural to talk about a truly disturbing, unsolved Japanese mystery. In Japan, vending machines are found on every corner street, selling everything from drinks to bread, shirts and even whiskey. But this convenient way of purchasing food and drink left a chilling opening for a sadistic killer to take advantage. Between April and November of 1985, an invisible predator stalked the streets of Japan, deliberately lacing bottles of soft drinks and energy drinks with herbicides and placing them in and around vending machines. Unsuspecting victims picked up these tainted drinks, believing they were either part of a promotional giveaway or simply abandoned, and consumed them. As a result, at least 13 people were killed, and 35 others fell seriously ill, making the incident one of the deadliest cases of product tampering in history. The first known victim was a man in Fukuyama, Hiroshima Prefecture, who drank a bottle of Oranamin C that had been placed on a vending machine on April 30th, 1985. The bottle had been poisoned with Paraquat dichloride, a highly toxic herbicide that was widely available in Japan at the time. Paraquat could be purchased without identification, and although buyers were supposed to show agricultural need, its easy availability contributed to its use in both suicides and homicides. At the time of the murders, Otsuka Pharmaceutical, the manufacturer of Oraman C, was running a buy one get one free promotion to boost sales. The perpetrator exploited this campaign by placing poisoned bottles near vending machines, making them appear to be part of the offer. Many of the targeted drinks were Oraman C and Real Gold, although Coca-Cola was also involved in some cases. In one instance, Diquat, a chemical related to Paraquat, was used instead. Victims included a 44-year-old executive who died weeks after drinking 2 tainted vitamin beverages, and a 52-year-old man in Tokyo who succumbed less than 3 days after consuming a poisoned bottle. The killings continued sporadically until November, with no clear pattern in the choice of victims. The poisonings were indiscriminate, making it difficult for investigators to find a motive. No extortion demands were made, and Otsuka Pharmaceutical and Coca-Cola reported no threats. Surveillance footage on the bottles themselves provided no useful evidence. Authorities considered that a single person could be responsible, but copycat incidents were also possible. As public fear grew, the National Police Agency launched a campaign in late September to prevent further poisonings. Consumers were urged to inspect bottles carefully, vending machine operators were instructed to check stock rigorously, and retailers were asked to monitor the sale of toxic chemicals, and the Japanese Soft Drink Bottles Association issued millions of warning stickers for vending machines. Unsurprisingly, public confidence in vending machines and bottled beverages was seriously impacted. To date, the Paraquat murders remain unsolved, but since Japan abolished the statute of limitations for murder in 2010, the case could still be prosecuted if new evidence arises. So think twice if you see an extra bottle in that vending machine tray. You never know how it got there. Graveyard Ghost. Let's head back to the supernatural for this one. It takes us to Todmorden in West Yorkshire in the UK, which is better known for UFO sightings than ghosts. However, this image was captured in Todmorden Unitarian Churchyard, and it appears to show the spirit of a long dead woman who was buried there. It was snapped by a group of ghost hunters who were exploring the graveyard in October 2018. The team say their electric energy meters were going haywire, and they were drawn to the grave of Sarah Agnes, who died aged 50 in 1927. One of the group, a guy named Rob Crabtree, took the photograph and was shocked at the images he caught. The mist appears to take the shape of a woman hovering over her grave. It's important to note that when the photo was taken, the night was clear and there was no fog or mist in the air. The gravestone revealed that 3 people are buried in the plot, with 2 women believed to be the wives of a man named James Davenport. The ghost hunters suspect that the spirit belongs to the older woman, Sarah Agnes, since the other wife was only 27 years old at the time of her death, and they believe that the image depicts an older woman. At the time the photograph was taken, none of the group noticed the mist. The only unusual occurrence was the erratic energy meters and a feeling that someone was watching them. What do you make of this one? Is this proof of the paranormal, or is there a more plausible explanation? Okay, for our final entry, we're going to once again take a trip away from the paranormal to talk about something truly terrifying. It's the death of Hisashi Ouchi. This one is so horrific that it's hard to even believe that anyone could have allowed it to happen. The death of Hisashi Ouchi is considered to be one of the most horrendous in modern history, and his story exposes the lengths the Japanese medical experts were prepared to go in order to keep a man alive as some sort of inhumane experiment. It all started on September 30th, 1999, when Hisashi Ouchi went to work as normal at the Tokamura nuclear plant in Japan. Hisashi worked as a technician in a uranium processing plant operated by JCO. Hisashi and his two colleagues, Masato Shinohara and Yutaka Yokohawa, were asked to prepare a small batch of reactor fuel. It wasn't a process they were familiar with, as it was the first time in 3 years that JCO had requested this, meaning no proper qualifications or training requirements were in place. Furthermore, the technicians were under pressure to complete the task to meet shipping requirements. As a result, a catastrophic error was made. To purify the reactor fuel, workers were supposed to use an automatic pump to mix up to 2.4 kilograms of enriched uranium with nitric acid. Instead, they manually used a stainless steel bucket and mixed 16 kilograms of uranium by mistake. The incorrect measurement of high purity enriched uranium oxide mixed with nitric acid inadvertently triggered a self-sustaining nuclear fission chain reaction that released intense gamma and neutron radiation. The technicians first realized something was wrong when they saw a blue flash that triggered the gamma radiation alarms. Ouchi was the nearest to the precipitation tank, while his colleague Shinohara was standing on a nearby platform, and Yokohawa was sitting at a desk 4 meters away. Almost immediately after the leak, Ouchi and Shinohara experienced pain, nausea, and breathing difficulties. And Ouchi, who had received the most significant radiation exposure, had problems with mobility and coherence, eventually losing consciousness. A worker in the next building realized the severity of the incident and called for emergency medical assistance, and all 3 men were taken to hospital. The plant was evacuated, and the next morning experts were able to end the nuclear chain reaction by draining water from the surrounding cooling jacket installed on the precipitation tank and adding a boric acid solution to the tank to reduce all contents to subcritical levels. The aftermath of the accident resulted in over 10,000 medical checkups of emergency workers and nearby residents, with some needing hospitalization for excessive radiation exposure. However, thankfully no deaths occurred outside of the lab the technicians were working in. However, Hisashi, Masato, and Yutaka were not so lucky. Ouchi had been exposed to 17 SB of radiation, Shinohara 10, and Yokohawa received 3. To put this into perspective, the allowable dose for plant workers was 0.05. The worst affected was 35-year-old Ouchi, whose exposure to the radiation was so extreme that most of his body had severe burns and his internal organs were seriously damaged. In addition, his chromosomes were destroyed and his white blood cell count plummeted to near 0, meaning he had no immune system. Ouchi was placed in a special radiation ward to limit the risk of infection. Over the course of the next few weeks, he was treated with various experimental drugs and procedures, including peripheral blood stem cell transplantation, repeated cultured skin grafts, and granuloctile colony stimulating factor, as well as being administered numerous painkillers and antibiotics. Even though it was clear the damage Ouchi's body had sustained through radiation was untreatable. During the first week of these pointless experiments, Ouchi was conscious enough to tell the doctors, "I cannot take it anymore. I am not a guinea pig." Still, despite his pleas, they continued to treat him, and at the request of his family, doctors repeatedly revived him when his heart stopped. The poor man was being kept alive against his will when it was clear there was no hope of survival. Almost all of his body had been completely destroyed, and most of his skin was peeled off. After 83 agonizing days, Ouchi died on December 21st, 1999, following an unrecoverable cardiac arrest. The agony Ouchi must have been in does not bear thinking about, and to this day, he holds the record for the most radiation experienced by a person who survived the initial dose. But at what cost? Keeping him alive when there was no hope of survival is one of the most significant examples of human torture in the 20th century. The ethical value of his prolonged treatment was questioned and received criticism. As for the other 2 workers, well, sadly, despite a 7-month battle during which Masato appeared to be recovering, he died on April 27, 2000, of multiple organ failure. He too had endured radical treatments and numerous successful skin grafts, as well as a transfusion from congealed umbilical cord blood, but was still unable to fight the radiation-induced infections and internal bleeding that eventually caused fatal lung and kidney failure. Their supervisor, Yokoawa, did manage to survive and was released after 3 months with minor radiation sickness. That's it for this video. Stay safe, and I'll see you tomorrow.